So far. Hello, Linda. Linda. Linda Langdon.
Like you said, she's the early bird.
She's the early bird. Linda's always hungry.
Hmm.
She's always hungry. I'm glad to see you, Linda. And we were just kind of chatting before you got here. This little room that I'm in is so hot. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Because
really?
we got those floor to ceiling windows here, and that's the when now that the trees don't have leaves, the sun just pours in this window, and I've got blinds and blackout curtains, but it doesn't help. It just gets very hot right here.
Wow.
Anyway, and I think I've got on the wrong shirt. But
It's,
anyway,
it's hot.
it's hot. It's hot. So if you see me sweating, that's why I'm sweating. It's good to see you, Linda. I'm glad you're with us, sweetheart. We were just chatting, and Norman, you were about to say something, and I had to abruptly cut him off so I could go live. But if you want to continue with that, you can. We can start with our normal conversation. Hello,
Okay.
Diana. I'm glad you're here with us, sweetheart. Diana's in California, I think. And
Okay. Hey there, Diana.
that's little Vincent's girlfriend. We always call him Little Vince.
Yeah,
Oh,
cause he ain't little Vince.
well, he's not Little Vince now, but he's Little Vince to us because he was a child when we first met him,
Hmm.
and we had an adult Vince, and so he became Little Vince. So that's the only reason we call him Little Vince. But you're right, he is no longer a Little Vince. But you were about to share something. I don't know if you
Yeah,
feel comfortable sharing it, but
I can. I can. Here we since the 14th of November, I've been dealing with a series concerning out of the ashes, and then we transitioned to the topic of rebuilding, and
Mhm.
basically the concept was, we was returning back to our physical edifice again to celebrate our 22nd church anniversary. So the doors of our church are open, but I began to share with the people concerning uh, the expectations of trying to return back to what we
Mhm.
were accustomed to. And so, of
Mhm.
course, the blueprint for the whole series was the book of Nehemiah, because again, during that time, the children of Israel, when they was set free from captivity from Babylon, they went back to Jerusalem only to discover that this city was totally in ruins. The walls were burnt down, and so of course, their expectations was high until they arrived home,
Yeah.
and it wasn't what they expected. And so I use that as a parallel to us trying to return back to some sense of norm. And so I've been given key principles on rebuilding, not so much the church, but
Right.
different areas of your life. Someone may be trying to rebuild their marriage, or rebuild their children, or rebuild their home, and
Yeah.
personal rebuilding your own self. And so I
And
begin.
actually redefining their lives. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Sunday I got on the topic of foundations.
Okay.
And when we build a structure, the first thing that the focus is the laying of the foundation. And so I began to share with them that oftentimes for the scenario, like say if you begin to see cracks develop in your walls and so forth, you go and you hire somebody to come and repair the cracks in the wall, and a
Mhm.
couple of weeks later, the cracks show up again, and not just the one crack that was repaired, but several more
Yeah.
begin to show up. And
Yeah.
then you're now upset. You upset with the person that you hired to repair the cracks in your wall and so forth, only to discover that the problem wasn't the wall, it was the
It's a
foundation.
foundation. Mhm.
And it was a shifting find out. And basically, I was using as our text of Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 27, concerning building on a sure or a stable foundation. And
Mm.
so from that on yesterday, before I got on the broadcast, I shifted from focusing on the foundation, and now in the same text, now I was focusing on the storms. And so I was sharing with the people last night that a storm is just a disturbance of our normality. It's something that comes suddenly. It
Yeah.
disrupts, it interrupts and our norm. And so I began to see that many of us are dealing with several different storms in our life. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to our culture, our society, and our nation, it was revealed to me that not only are we dealing with the pandemic, but look at what happened last year. We had the pandemic, we had the rise of racism again,
Yeah.
social injustice. People started having financial difficulties. Then there was unrest. There was so much going on at one time that immediately I received the impression that that is actually a perfect storm. And for anyone that understands what a perfect storm is, it is when several things are going on at the same time. And if we use it in reference to the weather,
Yeah.
there's a movie concerning a true a situation that happened entitled
Mm-hmm.
Perfect Storm. There was
Mm-hmm.
several hurricanes, three hurricanes that were going on at the same time, and they eventually converged and came together, and they called it a perfect storm. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I realize that with the mental health of and people being emotionally unstable now, with the kids again, violence are increasing in the school, domestic violence is increasing, all kind of things are happening, and it's a result of what we've been dealing with. As you know, I classified it as a perfect storm. There are
Mm-hmm.
several storms that we are dealing with that have converged together at one time and disrupted our whole norm.
That's true. And I think in the aftermath of it, many of us have found ourselves in a position of trying now to redefine what our lives, what not what our lives are about, but how to find meaning. We were talking about this before going on.
Hmm.
How to find meaning now in our lives after the aftermath of all of these, what you call the perfect storm, which is still pretty much going on, except this now it's like we were all focused on COVID at one point. It's still there, but now it's like in the background. Uh, and there are other storms that have came up, like the tornadoes come up out of and come up
Kentucky and
when there's a
Tennessee.
hurricane and it spins off tornadoes. Well, now, like you say, there are other storms in the midst of that, and so it's like in the aftermath now to try to come to a place of knowing, not so much knowing who I am because I know that now, but where what what does this that I am want to do with the rest of this life? And I think that's where we are. And I
Mhm.
don't know about everybody else, but that no, that's where we are. And I wanted to say good afternoon to Keely. Hey Keely, I was thinking about you today. So yeah, that's, and you, and like you said, you and Dad talked about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that was amazing when he brought that up to me because again, uh, uh, you guys again like Bishop, congratulations again. He's 74, and I'm 54. 20 years different. And when he began to share that with me, it was weird because I'm like, okay, he in his 70s, and I'm dealing with the exact same thing that he's dealing with, trying to find something meaningful or fulfilling.
fulfilling.
Um, Again, me being a full-time pastor, and like I said, we still yet have our edifice. We open up the doors, but I know without a shadow of a doubt, and again, I know this is dealing with awakening, maturing, that I don't need to try to recapture yesterday. Um, and I've been sharing with so many people who I'm doing personal mentoring with them that you got to stop mourning the past. All right, it's over. Don't try to recapture it. Stop having these total recalls of it. You got to move forward. And of course, we use the scripture. Remember not the former things, nor the things of old. Behold, God is about to do a new thing. And then it says, now it shall spring forth. And
Mm,
so I I enjoyed what I did back in the day, especially when it came to ministry. But
mm,
After not being in front of the people and the congregation for 21 months, I begin to reflect and I begin to meditate about what, like you said earlier, Mom, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Because I know we're not going to be able to go back to what it was. Matter of fact, because I do a lot of research, my wife as well, and we notice that some of the mega churches, as large as their edifice is, now they may have a couple, maybe 500 people there, whatever, but it's still based off of the size of the building. It's still yet
Still
practically
going through.
empty,
Mm-hmm.
literally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw where we won't be able to go back to yesterday. So again, what do we do now? And especially in my role as a leader, what is next? And then I have to
Mm-hmm.
think about my personal involvement and fulfillment as well.
Yes, yes.
I mentored a lady for a second in the what a substation,
Mm-hmm. Subway.
subway
Mm-hmm.
station. I wasn't anybody in there when I walked in the building to place an order, but this lady came in after an order that she did online. She was finished. She finished her order at the cash register, and I was standing beside her, and I wanted to tell her. I didn't have to have discernment. I didn't have to have insight or anything. I wanted to tell her that Jesus was in her and that I saw him and I know him in her.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought said, well, it's not time yet. She's not in a good place. And maybe you don't need to say that to her. Now I did it twice yesterday, but I waited and cautioned myself to find out this pain and hurt that you're feeling from not being in front of people can only be satisfied through what I'm getting ready to tell you. I said to her, I looked at her and she just getting ready to put her money in the thing, and I tapped her on the shoulder. Like that. I said, I see Christ. I see Jesus in you. She didn't have to be, she didn't look saved. I didn't feel the presence of God. I didn't know anything about her. I didn't want anything from her. I really didn't want to disturb her, but I had to tell her something. And I said, I see Jesus in you. She lit up. She said, oh, thank you so much. That was one. The next one, when I went to the salon to get my feet treated, a lady came in. I had never seen her. Matter of fact, if you look at her, she had her braids in. She was about 6 tall. And when she came in, I wanted to tell her that God was inside of her. Didn't know her, strangers. I don't want to know them, but I do, but I don't. But I do, but I don't, but I do, but I don't, but I do, but I don't. You know, that sound like a good rap song. Do that, do that, rap, that, do up, that. And so, anyway, I looked at her. I said, Merry Christmas. I see your essence. She said, yes, essence. He is there. He is you. He is in you. And I said, what you were sent here for, you are going to fulfill every bit of that contract that you agreed to before you came to earth. She's right across from me, and everybody in the place was listening to me talking, whether they understood English from Spanish or what. I said it. I said, God is sitting there in that chair inside of you. She could have been a crook, a hook, anything you want to say of the nook. I didn't care. I found out that I was setting people free beyond brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
No binding, no loosening. Whoever and whatever it is in them that was false, it did not matter.
Mm-hmm.
I set them free. And listen to this. I didn't know I was working in eternal forgiveness for the lie that we've been told that Christ can only be in you when you accept him in the church projection, the churches, the brick and mortar, the religious, and even the modern day Holy Ghost baptized, filled, anointed, speaking in tongues. I dropped every bit of it, and I used what I'm looking at here in Matthew 25:35. I was hungered, and you fed me not. If you fed one, you fed all of them. Do you know that the people in the restaurant, even though they pay for their food, Jesus Christ is everybody in that restaurant, saved or not saved? He is them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pastor, I feel the hurt and the pain inside of me of wanting to tell everybody I meet. And I don't go around, and I don't have to go around looking for people to tell it to. It is a natural, automatic thing as I go. Mm-hmm. And if I don't want to tell them, I don't feel obligated to tell them or not to tell them.
Well, you said a whole lot with that, because what, in essence, what you said is one of the ways to ease the burden that we're feeling, that we've been talking about, is to somehow touch people, in a personal way. And I think that's the longing that's in us. It's a touching people in a personal way. But now you've never met a stranger, so for you that's a really simple thing.
Yeah, it is
to do that.
But ladies, some ladies can't do that.
And all people, all of us beings are not built the same.
But if you
way.
were standing beside somebody and you see me do it, you stand beside somebody and see that, it is absolutely mind blowing.
It disarms the ego, and it causes their hearts to open up. But you also touched on this as well. I was watching the Chronicles, Christmas Chronicles.
Yes.
I love that movie. But anyway, there was a scene in there where the boy and his sister, their father had passed, and he was very bitter about it. And he was sitting on the curb, and she was standing there next to him, and he had been really nasty to her, harsh to her, and she was kind of tearful. And he said to her, I know Dad's not proud of me. He wouldn't be proud of me. And she stood up, and little bitty girl, she stood up and looked at him, and she said, yes, he is. He's proud of you. And he said, how do you know? And she said, because I see so much of him in you. I realize when you say, I see Jesus or I see Christ in you, we're not talking about a being that lived 2,000 years ago.
And sometimes you might have to say, I see God. You don't have to
personalize it. Again, my point is, when you say that, we're not talking about a being that lived 2,000 years ago. What you're saying is you see the very essence and nature
modern day
in them. They resemble him.
Exactly.
And it's nothing right or wrong with it. It's nothing disrespectful to God. It's nothing to be lost or gained.
It'd be like saying to you, I see so much of your dad in you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean Frank actually is there.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love that you said that, Mom, because I read the scripture this morning doing a morning prayer time with those that we connect on our morning glory power prayer line. And I came from Romans chapter 8, but I want to focus on verse 29 based on what you just said. It said, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Yes. And so you just said that we're not talking about the Jesus or the God of over 2,000 years. We're talking about right now. You are the express image, the very essence of all that he was back then. You are right now. Yes.
So we resemble him. We resemble our dad. We resemble the Christ, because when they see us, that's what Jesus meant when he said, when you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
It's his I am. I don't want to look like my daddy. I am. I don't want to look like my mama. I
I
am.
am.
I don't want to feel the feelings of the past. I am. I don't want to see anything of me, of my past and the generations of the curses and all that stuff that they
Mhm.
say. But I am. I
Mhm.
am what? Inquisitioning is saying, I am what God is
Yes.
with all of that. But you can't be like that. You got to clean up. But I'm still I am.
And so it's gone for what you're saying is it's gone
Ooh,
past for
glory
us
be to
anyway.
God. This revelation of I am. I am. I'm not okay. I am who? I'm not my mama. I'm not my daddy. But in this physical world,
I am.
this same juice, we are inside of the ugliest thing in the world. I saw some African people come out of a restaurant that looked like monkeys, physical monkeys. Their heads were shaped. I looked online and saw them again this morning. Their faces, all three of them looked like monkeys, and they would look like they were deformed. But I, but that was a test for my vision. God taught me how to see Him in. But
So and what's happened is when that happens, there is nothing that's called that is there's no difference in what's beauty and what's ugly.
that's right.
There is no ugly. And so
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
there's no ugly. So that tells me, like, for instance, what we're doing here today. I don't know about you, but when I do this, I'm fulfilled.
Mhm.
It's like we're having a chance to express that, and we're having a chance to have them come back at us and
Mhm.
express that. That is the touching that I think we long for.
Now, Ma, you just hit the nail on the head. I just experienced that Monday, and actually, it's been several different incidences. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of mentoring individuals on the phone who's calling me and having questions and so forth. And the young lady that I dealt with on Monday, as I was sharing with her, I said that. I said, this right here, what I'm doing with you, this is fulfilling to me.
Yes,
You see,
yes,
I'm actually at a place where I feel I'm in total alignment
mhm,
with the universe, with the will of God, whatever. This is who I am, and I am totally fulfilled. And I feel more fulfilled doing this
mhm.
than
Yes,
the need of being on a platform with a mic
yes,
in my hand or whatever,
yeah,
because you can deal with a lot of more different things on that one-on-one or
yeah,
face to
yeah,
face
yeah,
versus trying to speak to a whole group of people. And I
yeah,
think that's
yeah,
where we lost
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
people in the midst of it, because everybody's situation is not the same.
Exactly. And 2020 was us not being able to touch anybody.
Exactly.
And now the longing in us is to be personable,
Mhm.
is to have that interaction one on one, and realizing that interaction is really where the rubber meets the road, and we see some positive transformation.
God, God, from the childhood experience of being inside of another round of finiteness, mm, another 1,000,002,000,000,000,000 evolution, one more time, we experience birth and coming forth inside of another being. This time we experienced this again. We had to downsize a portion of us to get into a body and get comfortable. It was a difficult moment for all of us. Some looked like they were cool. Some looked like they didn't want to come. Some looked like they didn't want to be here. Some cried, some kicked, and some cried for years until the body reached a certain maturity for us to be free. But let me tell you what happened to us. We got used to being human.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in the human form, we went to school, and everything we got into took our attention away from our true identity. It lied to us, and now we are coming back to the real self.
Yes.
Now that we're coming back, there's a resistance inside of this suit that says, I will be your teacher because I know what I was assigned to be. And your God identity says, help yourself, because I have also found out how to use you as my teacher to find out who I am in this time and this course. And I cannot do anything else but find out the truth of myself. God Almighty. Woo! Woo!
I think he's popping.
Pop, pop.
God Almighty.
I think he's popping.
Glory.
But
Oh,
in all that he just shared, you know, that shows us, that should even be a lesson to us, that even when we were gathering in the brick and mortar, even when we was gathering, we were not being personal. We weren't. We was gathered, but we had not connected and so forth. And so it was funny that he mentioned that even earlier about being delivered from the brick and mortar. I just shared that with another pastor in the gym today, that we didn't even see that we made the building, the structure, an idol.
yes.
We felt like that we needed to be there. We needed that. And so it took place of us having a relationship with our true Father.
Yes,
Yeah.
it did. And we really were under the misconception that was the way to help people, and not realizing there's so many other ways to help people, and probably more effective ways to help people.
What I found out, you are the uninterrupted God identity. Let me say it another way. What you are and have always been, you may be called a backslider because you don't go to church no more. And I know when I say stuff like this, if I say it across the floor in a brick and mortar, going to cut my money or cut my check off. I don't give a hoot. I know that there is a you that I am, and I am a me that's you and everybody in the universe.
Yeah.
I don't have to be saved anymore the way the program said. I don't have to be delivered the way the deliverance ministry say I need to be free. I don't have to be anointed anymore the way the other anointed say I got to be. I don't have to be anointed the way I read it in the Bible or any other book. I don't have to be led by God the way you and others been taught. I don't have to be led the way Moses and Elijah was. Come on now, I'm talking stuff now. I'm talking grown folks talk. I don't have to be led no more the way the ink and paper say. But if I am to follow them, I need to be able to see what and who they were and I am now, so that we can work together in the same place, regardless of the difference of identities that we go through and work with. It doesn't matter whether I look like you or not. All I know is that God and you and I are the same Jews.
Exactly.
It don't matter about what we believe and not believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Because that does not affect the eternal self.
Right.
Exactly. That's good. That's good.
This morning while I was walking the dog,
yeah,
and I had you may remember I said this. I think it was on Tuesday, that there's a prayer being prayed in me that I'm not necessarily.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Deliberately praying, but it's a prayer that's being prayed in me.
Yes.
and it's about God revealing itself to me, even though I know I'm one. It's like this prayer has come up. And then this morning on the way while I was walking,
Jesus.
I heard, we talked about this whisper, the whisper, the whisper. I heard the whisper say, "Can you hear me?" And I said, "Yes, I hear you." He said, "So then you know who I am." I said, "Yes, I know who you are." He said, "So is it me revealing myself to you, or is it you talking to you?" I said, "It's both. It's both. It's both God speaking and me speaking as well, as that God's self." And so and at the time it happened, it's like there felt like there was a separate me that it was happening to, but at the same time, the separate me that it was happening to was the one that was doing it. It's a dichotomy. It's a paradox. We live in the paradox of being human and God at the same time, and it's a horse of a different color, as they said in the Wizard of Oz, because we live in that paradox. And there are times, and I wanted to say something about what Keely mentioned. She talked about how she tries to see God in everybody, but when she's driving, it's hard. I know, because that's the paradox. There are times when we will see people acting very human, and then it's hard for us who are both God and human to see them as God, because we have the concept in our minds that if God shows up, it's got to be woo.
Okay.
It's got to be holy. It's got to be loving. It's got to be kind. It's got to be considerate of other people, and God is showing up in very human ways, and we don't like when we see God that way.
At that moment, Keely, it is him that don't want to see himself in them at the moment.
Yes.
But he's still there. Listen to this.
Yes.
The residual impressions and thoughts and objects appear to have an unending, like waves of ocean going through our feelings and minds. That is not going to stop. But the only way that can be brought into subjection, not through trying to see God, it is brought about through a spontaneous, which tells you a spontaneous working of the true self. At the moment we don't see him as them, that does not mean that he's not them.
Right. And at the moment I react to them.
And that doesn't mean that you're not him.
Exactly.
Okay. You have to get that understanding. That will get you over the bridge. That will get you over the bridge. Now you might stick your hand out. Now I remember, like I said, I saw that Hispanic guy make a U-turn in a place where he wasn't supposed to on Main Street.
You blew your train horn.
I blew my train horn at him and scared the hell out of him.
And he got mad.
And he went up the street there at the next stoplight and gave me an Hispanic finger and cussed me out in Spanish.
And I told him, I said, "You instigated that."
Yeah.
Man.
But at that moment, you could say in my feeling, God wasn't there. I lost my religion. I slipped back. I backslid. No, I didn't. All of a sudden, God, watch this. All of a sudden, God felt like, watch, here it comes. God felt like what Jesus said on the cross. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? But God didn't forsake him. He let him feel that because he needed to find out, just because that incident took place.
It didn't change anything. It didn't change anything.
Come on home.
I think Jesus was a perfect example of the paradox, because in the Garden of Gethsemane, He prayed. It said until it had sweat and drops of blood coming off of him because he was scared as hell of going to the cross.
That's right.
That was
Exactly.
the human self, that humanity, and so yet he was still the Christ.
Now,
So it's the paradox.
no, and I'll give you another answer. Here's another answer. One of these days, you're going to find out that incident, Keely, or with all of us online, is going to happen again.
Mhm.
But it's going to be a different way of taking it. And I said, why inquisitioning? Because that last incident, God did come through, but you couldn't see it.
Uh-huh.
What is going on is that we haven't used the practice of being Him in the quiet moments enough for when the crisis come up, it will outweigh the crisis. Eventually, eventually you will get to the place where you will allow Him to come through. Condition self will be able to move out of the way. I just can't wait till that happens. I'm telling you.
Well, you'll see it come through, and you also learn to laugh at your humanity.
Yes,
Exactly.
in the post office. Let me tell you what happened in the post office. In the post office, I did not know that I had gone to a point of the inner self coming forth until the lady passed out behind me in a line in the post office. And you remember what Jesus said, take no thought, and that it would be there with you.
Mm-hmm.
You shall stand, and then immediately we have felt, it's called the resurrection of the rolling away of the stone.
Yeah, well, see, then I'm glad you brought that up
Mhm.
because immediately you were in a doctor mode.
It was Him.
And
But
so what we've gotten used to,
that's what the church called anointings. Go ahead.
yeah, and what I think has happened is that we have started to think, and it's another misconception.
Translate.
We've started to think that if we see God, then it's going to be something beyond human.
Yeah, it's going to be so phenomenal. Bells and whistles and stars and flashing lights and all that.
And so we haven't accepted our own humanity.
And when the guy got mad at me, it wasn't so. It didn't feel good. Adrenaline flowed, and I wanted to dial the police and call him.
It felt good to blow the horn.
Oh, shucks,
and it felt good to him to cuss you out. So I mean, it was
and I wasn't about to tell him Jesus was in him. I won't tell him I'll bind you and loose you.
So y'all made each other feel good that day.
I said I will throw a brick over there. And if and you know what? If I'd have had my pea shooter, my what do you call that? What they call my they used to call a name for that gun, my pea shooter in the dashboard, I'd have pulled it out and pointed at it.
No, you would not.
Not now. I said in the day that potential that is still there.
Would have
done it's still there.
It would have.
But here's the strength of this thing. I'm telling you something. I'm telling you this. I'm telling you. Oh, I'm telling you. Days are getting longer, and now getting shorter, and I love you just the same.
I'm gonna bring y'all to be crazy. Y'all gonna be crazy.
That's baby Jesus and his
We're
cousin.
crazy. We're crazy.
Oh,
let me read what Vincent put up here.
Go ahead.
Diana and I was just talking about that last night. We were saying the difference of the expression of God in Abraham's day and today. We know we are one with Him today, not separated. Yeah,
exactly.
I looked, Brother Pastor Norman. I looked at some glue, and y'all at Cornerstone heard me talk about it. And back there in the back, there's a glue that I use to make my toys, and glue would steal anything, and it's called Instabond.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a toxic to it, but when you put it on, it'll smell. It'll burn your eyes.
It's so strong.
It's so strong.
Yeah. It's so strong that I thought about using it, and he scared me out of it. I'm like, you have to be really careful about that one.
But I went on to use it in place of that. In the place of that, I was back there one day, and I put something together, and I didn't hold it tight. Don't hang for a second, and it kept coming loose. Pastor, the glue.
You inching up over here now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get up there on top of it. I'm trying to get up on top of it. The glue started talking to me in sight. I looked at it. It said, we are trying to hook, and you're not giving us time to lock horns together. I am an opposite inside the bottle, but when I get out, I have a chance to communicate with my other side. There's a dark and a left side to me that's in the bottle, and the only way I can get out to see this part of me, you have to apply me.
Mhm.
Do you know that when something comes up that seems dark, that's the best time for the glue to apply itself because it gets a chance to find this other hook? Your
Mhm.
hook is your opposite.
Yes, sir. So
Exactly.
it
You
has
have to have that.
those opposites have. In fact, if you go back to Genesis, which is
Glory be to
the
God.
narrative that we've always believed in,
Ooh, I'm scared.
God actually created opposites.
I'm scared because I'm
That-
getting ready to see more
because
of God.
God
what
actually
you're saying,
created
opposites
opposites.
Yes,
attract.
he did.
He
Night
did.
and day.
He actually put a problem in the garden.
Night and day. Evening and
He
dark
put-
and
he
evening and
put-
night. He did.
He put a potential problem in the garden.
Didn't
He
have no
said,
street
here's the
lights.
tree of life,
That's
and
right.
here's the tree of good and
That's
evil.
right.
Don't touch this one.
Mhm. That's right.
Knowing that our nature is curiosity, we're gonna try to touch what you say don't touch. That's why they make signs, don't touch this wet paint, and you will touch it every time to see if it's wet.
Mama said,
Exactly.
boy, if you don't get over there and sit down, I'm going to kick and knock your butt up into your neck.
Mhm.
And you know what? If she knocked that up in your neck, your food ain't going to never taste right.
Listen.
But see, that's what has happened again in what we call church circles. We have talked so much about what not to do. Like you just said, don't touch this, don't do that. What we did, we kept these people curious about those things that we was telling them not to do. So in essence, we made them
Made
just
them
for
do
the
it.
sake of understanding sin conscious. We
Made them
made
do
them
it.
more conscious of sin rather
Yeah.
than conscious of God.
Exactly. You know, there's a scripture for that. There's a scripture said when sin revived, I died, and he said
Yeah.
When my
when the
opposite revealed itself,
when the law came,
I died.
I knew.
sin came because it said don't touch, and I had to touch to see.
And it's good that you said that, because if they want to preach this thing right, all right, according to the scriptures, they never talk about the part where it was never his will, Father's will, the I am. It was never his will to give them laws.
Exactly.
They asked for them. That's
did.
why he gave them what they asked for. It wasn't his plan again to give them a king. But they were comparing themselves to every other nation, on the planet, and they wanted to be like them. And it was never his plan to give laws. And so, like you said, soon as he gave the laws, that's when they became very what?
That's right.
Sin conscious.
They couldn't help it. That was the wet paint sign, don't touch it. It's the same thing when you got a child and you say, don't touch that right there. Boy, they're going to touch it every time because you've made this is something important, and I want to see what it is. So I like what Vincent said. Vincent's crazy. Vincent, you just
I was reading
some of you go on the TV set and yell Jesus, and then look and see who's looking and who's moving by.
He do realize that those shows are pre-recorded, right?
I love it. Linda said the bad driver wouldn't be much of a problem except for the narrative in our mind. That's right. Because we have all these comments, and we talked about this morning. Inside of us is the whisper of God, and also inside of us is the whisper of what the Bible calls Satan. So Jesus said this when Peter came up to him and said, no, you can't go to the cross. He said, get behind me, Satan. Satan is not a capital S. It's not a name.
Exactly.
Satan means an adversary. So there is the potential in every one of us, the whisper of an adversary. We can be our own adversary. We can be our own opposer. And there's a scripture in Timothy that talks about that. Those who oppose themselves,
Exactly.
they can deliver themselves out of the snare of the devil. So it's about us knowing the whispers are there and where the whispers coming from. If it's coming from my humanity, if it's coming from God, which is both me.
Mm-hmm.
This God that we're saying, we're not going to use that word God too many more times
Yeah,
as we
yeah.
venture into awareness. I see two things going on with you, Pastor, and some of the others. I see an old Chevrolet truck, a ton and a half truck, backing up, metaphorically speaking, to your door. I see it with us too, and some of the others listening. I see you loading up all your junk.
Mhm.
You're throwing on the back of the truck. It would normally not be a truckload because in time past, we did not walk in the strength of our infinite self awareness like we are now.
Mhm.
And as events arising comes about, we handle things from our pure self different.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now the
Yes.
truck is ready to sit there and be loaded with some more furniture, everything, care, worry.
Mhm.
But all of these things have been loaded on the truck because they have served their purpose.
Mhm.
And let me tell you something. Jesus in the suit cried, the suit cut Jesus,
The body,
the body,
the man,
the man.
Jesus.
In the wilderness, his last stroke of identity was tested with an opposite.
Mhm.
Now, most of us read that temptation in the wilderness as an entity, spiritual, separated being, devil that came to him.
But it was the whisper in his
It was
head.
what was inside of his human
Yes,
thing that
it
he
was his
had to go through.
his
But he,
humanity.
but because he knew who he was in the real self,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
was established in him how to deal with the onslaughts
Mhm.
of the dark side of his self.
Yeah, we all have a shadow side.
It wasn't sin side of him,
Mhm.
and it ain't sin the side of us. The translation of the word sin was translated because the ego mind wanted to use it as a dark entity that can never be defeated, only defeated by binding and loosing. This that we're talking about, the only way it can be stopped is by change of identity.
And all we've done in the past by calling sin
Ain't done nothing
is
but
amplify it.
thank you. This
Exactly.
we talking about will only stop through a change of identity.
I want to give a dramatization of that,
Okay.
Okay.
of what you just said concerning with Jesus, because it's something that I've been on that thing for probably about 3 years now. When that situation happened, and of course you can find in Matthew chapter 4, but it actually begins in chapter 3, where after he was baptized, and when he came up out of the water, we hear that we read that the heavens opened
Mm-hmm.
up, the spirit of
Mhm. Mhm.
the Lord lighted upon him as
Mm-hmm.
of a dove, and the Father spoke and said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well
Mm-hmm.
pleased."
Well,
Now,
please.
I had the people understand something. Jesus didn't do anything yet.
Mm-mm.
He ain't done nothing. So why
Mm-mm.
why would that statement be made? This is my beloved and whom I'm well pleased,
Well,
when
please.
he hadn't done anything. And right after that, in chapter 4, verse 1, it says that he was then led into the wilderness by the Spirit of God
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
look.
Yes.
to be tempted or tested. All
Yes.
right. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you said about Satan, and I try to get people to understand, those words that we often use, those are not names or labels, those are
Mhm,
adjectives to
mhm,
describe.
mhm,
All
Mm-hmm.
right,
mhm.
describe something that you
Description.
cannot name. All right.
Mhm.
And so
Exactly.
now,
Exactly.
if they could understand us being divine and human at the same time. I want them to think about this. He was led in the wilderness and he was fasting for 40 days. In our natural man, we are now going to be what? Hungry.
Exactly.
There's no way where we cannot be hungry after we have not eaten or drank anything for 40 days. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so now,
Don't take 30 minutes.
y'all just said that accuser or that opposer now manifests, and now he speaks to that side of him and saying, if you be the Son of God, notice what was if you be the Son of God,
and call it out.
Talking about his identity.
Yeah.
If you be the Son of God, turn this stone into bread. Now, if we was operating in our ego, which Jesus did not in that situation, if we be honest with ourselves, let's be honest, we would have stepped up and turned that stone right into bread.
And well, we would have, yeah, and you know, you pointed out in our normal everyday 21st century thinking, we would have been saying this, man, I'm hungry. And then the thought would have come through, I could just take this over here since I'm God anyway. I'm finding out who I am. Why can't I just turn these rocks into something to eat? Exactly. That's the thought that was going through Jesus. But now we forget that primitive man has been evolving throughout the centuries. There was a time when primitive man thought that God was angry. There was a time when primitive man thought that any kind of storm that came along, it was God wiping things out, and God was angry. So primitive man has been evolving. And so back in the time when Jesus was on the earth as a physical being, that was the only way they could explain what was happening in their thought life. They had to give it some object. It had to make sense. And so we have always had to, and because we're human creatures, we've always had to have something make sense. And so because of that, we have carried this concept of the devil, Satan, for centuries. And now we're coming into the realization that that same thing that we've carried as a devil with horns is nothing more than the whisper of our own humanity inside of our heads.
When I saw Pastor and you guys out there from experience of years of casting demons out of people, I had to find out how to talk to them apart from their soul identity.
Yeah. Because they were believing they were that.
Now, I heard Bob Nelson separate the demon from the person, and he would say, move out of the way, demon, and let the person talk. The person would talk, but the person didn't know really who they were. And here, listen to this. When we first started off in the ministry of healing and prayer lines, that Saturday night I stood and people would line up from the front of that church all the way out the door. They were coming in from everywhere, and people getting healed and free and all that stuff, bound and loosened. And my angel was real apparent in the audience, and I could see him pointing out people to me. I kept hearing every time I called somebody out and lay hands on them, deep down into the eternal of my soul, a voice was quoting scripture, and I could feel it in awareness and sense it, but I couldn't quite figure out.
You heard the whisper.
I heard the whisper. Now, as I've gotten older in this, I found out one thing that God was doing with me before I was anywhere close to being aware of this. When I used to make toys, I used to notice the tractor and trailers that went past the house. There was a tone to their engines and the way they sound when they change gears. So what I used to do, I used to try to make that sound with my mouth when I was pulling my toys and playing in the yard. I didn't know that I was toning based on a frequency of a core essence inside of me that related to vibrational sounds. here lately I've been noticing my dog. She done got weird in this thing of hearing some kind of sound on television. She'll start shaking,
Nervous.
nervous, like somebody coming after her. And that's
Wow.
because her ear, her pitch is a certain sound that she done got tuned to.
And
So,
it's louder to her
and it's
than
louder,
to us.
and it brings about a threat to her. Now I remember when I put the dog collar on her and used that sound that you use the trained
She
dog.
does the same thing.
She does the same thing. So all of a sudden, I'm finding out that in my prayer time, there's a certain sound that I can make with my mouth and my sounds that are actually take my awareness inside of my inner core to the middle ear of my subconscious mind and can actually get a response. That's what make women mad when you say the wrong thing to them, that inner ear, because they are more sensitive to that ear than the men are, and men are silly to try to not even get anywhere close. They don't understand. Men think they know women because they've been out in the street. They don't know there is a veil that goes off inside of them that men need to find out, and then there's a part of men that women need to find out that they can't hear good. They don't hear good, and they have to be trained by a. See, the mother is supposed to train the son how to hear the female, and the father is supposed to train the daughter about men, but they don't do it like that anymore. And so now we have to learn through trial and error and opposites.
And all you're talking about is hearing the meta
Hearing
message,
the meta message.
or hearing what that person's
Now, when I don't want to
really
hear
saying.
her, don't nothing work.
That's true. He knows how to tune out very
And so do
easily.
you.
But I love that what he said though. He said you said when you don't want to hear her, nothing works, right?
That's right.
So
That's
that,
right.
that goes back to what y'all been sharing all before. Anytime you operate in dualism or separate, nothing works. Everything works when we
You
enter
hit
in
it.
oneness. That's when everything begins to fall in line.
That's
And
right.
and if we could understand that, anyone, even what's going on in our government right now, nothing is not going to work until they come and be as one. One nation. They said, but we ain't doing it.
We're not
So
doing it.
you just say, how can two walk together except they agree? And that was the father speaking to Amos, the prophet Amos. How can two walk together except they agree? Now we use it for everything, but he was actually making reference. How can I walk with you if you're not in agreement with me? How can we work together? That's what the father was saying.
You can't. Then let me put up, we got all time is almost up. But let me put up what Keely and Linda said. Keely said, I had a situation where I felt like I was unforgivable, like my sin was too big for God to forgive. I had a paradigm shift when I realized that God knew I was going to commit this sin and love me the same after as before. Nothing changed. It was me that couldn't forgive myself. And I'm waiting for the time when you start to see that sin consciousness is no longer you.
Everybody was standing there looking at you.
And now Linda says this: there's a man at her job who wants to save her.
I know what you want to do.
I told him I didn't believe in the devil. He told me I had to. I said, no, I don't.
He wants to save your soul and plug your.
Oh, baby.
I just leave it like that. That's what's going on.
Oh, baby.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I just said it. I didn't finish it. Go ahead. I'm just being straight, raw.
Yes, you are very raw. Yeah. But anyway, you didn't let me finish what she was saying.
Yeah, don't forget it. Go ahead.
I didn't forget. Says there is a man where I work who wanted to save me. I told him I didn't believe in the devil. He said I had to, and I said, no, I don't. Now he won't speak to me.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, y'all.
We could talk a whole lot about that, Miss Linda. I mean, is that Kelly? I'm sorry, that's Kelly.
No,
that was Linda. I'm sorry. We could talk a lot about that, Miss Linda. We could, but it would take a little more time.
Yeah.
We've been through that, and my wife we all been through that.
Yes.
Ain't no big deal about that.
Yes.
You probably no one speak to you. You'd be better off for him not to speak to you.
I love that what Vincent put up there.
Yeah, he said, Diana said, and I said, y'all talking to us about that relationship word.
Yeah. But you know
Yeah.
what? This is a moment of great evaluation, a time of great insight. You talking about all the tornadoes and things that are going on
It's awesome.
all around, all over the globe.
It's like everything's amplified
It's two
now.
and one get the. We saw them online. One way over here in the right and left, and then they come together. And now we've had the experience of driving around one of them.
Years
But
ago, years ago.
But
go ahead.
when you popped that up, living in an atmosphere of change, and it was funny because I was just going over some of my notes from last night when I talked about the storms. And again, a storm is a disturbance of the normal condition of the atmosphere. Now, when we say atmosphere, we're
Oh, I
not
like
talking
that.
about the gaseous envelope that encompass the world. Nor the air. We're talking about the surrounding, pervading and prevailing and pervading mood of emotion. So we're talking about the mood or the emotional tone of our nation. When we talk about atmosphere, we're talking about the tone, the mood of the
That's
nation right now. And so right now, the dominant mood has been this oppression, this frustration, this uneasy unrest.
yes,
Again,
yes.
our humanity has been disrupted or interrupted. And so when Dad said earlier that we are the uninterrupted God,
Interrupt
Yes.
yourself.
no matter what happens, it never disturbs me. It never interrupts me. And so what was happening, if people were really try to focus on the lesson that they need to receive or learn from this, but all these things are happening, look how it has disrupted your emotions or your mindset. That is not your true self. Because
Exactly.
your true self, no matter what's going on, it never gets disturbed. It never walks out of peace. It never is out of harmony. And so that's what a lot of us need to understand. We should be able to see our human self and our divine self through all of this and make a choice. Hey, I choose to walk in my divine self.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because while I was walking this morning as well, realizing that this life we're living is a paradox. There are times when I feel as a being, as a human being, I feel very peaceful. Those are times when I say I feel the presence of God. Those are the times when I feel I've walked in what I truly am. I'm walking in what I truly am. But most of the time, that's happening when I'm not doing anything consciously.
Exactly.
And so, but then there are other times when while I'm walking, my mind is everywhere. It's on everything. It's thinking about this and it's concerned about that. And there's no sense of actual peace there, except in the back of my mind, and that goes back to the whisper that in the back of my mind and back behind all of these feelings and reactions, there's a sense that everything's going to be okay. And so that's the paradox we live in. There are days when I'm going to be in that uproar and the little thought it's going to be okay. It's back here. But then there are other days when I'm breezing, I'm sailing, I'm chilling, and I don't care what happens. That those days are not every day.
Exactly. When you said that, Mom, concerning the whisper in the back of your mind, immediately I had this visual. That's the Jesus that's on the boat sleeping while the
There
storm
you
is going
go.
on.
There you go. That's the little voice way down deep that he was hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who we are. We're both. We're both the one that's up here reacting and the one down in the inside that's speaking those words.
When I found out in the narrative of the tombstone rolled away and Jesus going in and coming out, Watchman Nee talks about
ebb and tide.
Yes.
of the waves.
Mhm.
I remember we went to a meeting at a house and we prayed, about 4 or 5 of us, and we were around in a circle. And one of the girls had a tooth that was abscessed.
Yeah.
And as we prayed, I just took my finger like this and touched it. And she went all, whoa. And she went all into
You were feeling very gaudy right then.
Right then. but I wasn't expecting that to happen, and I touched it
And
with a
there are
finger,
times we're feeling very gaudy. And then there are other
and
times
it left.
we're
It
feeling
completely,
like the devil with the
yeah,
horns.
it left.
Mhm.
Now, I've always wanted to pray for people during that time. Uh, some people said when I was doing that it was too easy for things to take place. So he told me, my inner self said, God said, turn around, turn your back to the audience, don't look at them, and do the same thing.
Mhm.
And I did it. Now here's another one. Here's the hook that he put on us this morning. This ability is potential wise in all of us is not expressed. There is, I'm gonna take you into the secret place just a little bit. The inner self and the inner sanctuary has a bunch of guards around the hidden man of the heart or the hidden self. It will come forth in consciousness if if it is addressed right. Now, here's what I found out. Sometimes you can use scripture. Sometimes you can use some experience. Sometimes you can use a hammer. Sometimes you use a saw. Sometimes you use a screwdriver. These are metaphors that will appeal to it. Once you find out the appealing aspect of your inner self, it will instantly respond enough to where you can get familiar with the channel. Now, one of the channels that I found out that he flows through out of the 6 gates of the 5, 7 gates of the chakra, the energy centers, or the gates of the senses. You'll have to become very familiar with what that part of you is like. Our mind is so dull on this eternal self, pure identity, because it's been conditioned to say none is righteous, nobody's right, everything is wrong with me, and God is not with me because I don't live a certain way. It's not like that. When I found out that there is a me, I heard those voices come up clear. Then all of a sudden, I'm coming into a building and I hear the whole room talk to me. And what has happened is that over the years of practice, I practiced deliberately trial and error training
Mhm.
my middle ear to hear. I found out how to see without eyes, hear without ears, walk without feet, move without legs, know without a mind. The eternal us is that part of us that I became aware of that never die, never go, never come. And so what it did, Pastor, it made me wonder about the day of Pentecost. Was that really God and the sound of a rushing mighty wind? Was that the real him? I questioned everything in the book because I am supposed to, you are too,
Mhm.
and allow that is true God to reveal itself either from the scriptures or from the inside of you with much exercise of trust.
Mhm.
Our time is
Okay,
up.
our time is
And I
up.
know
Okay.
you're in a
Okay.
vein, and I didn't
Okay.
want to stop
I
you,
quit. No, you're fine.
but
You're good.
I needed to let you know that our time is up, and
Okay.
some of them are having to go to work
Leaving.
and whatever. So I just need to make sure that
Don't forget about what she getting ready to say, the cash app and all that.
I wanted to post what Vincent said. We have been questioning too. Okay, we are now looking for the break in the up and in the down.
Yeah.
And that there will be I think we get used to the up and the down. I don't know if it goes away, but I think we simply get used to the up and down, and like I said, learn to laugh at our humanity.
Here's a clue. The up and down that I heard in your voice is the dial. and the east is called the Dow. If you
Dow.
guys are you can go that direction if you're willing to be open-minded to study the Dow.
And we might want to talk about that maybe
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay.
And by the way, next week is Christmas week,
Christmas.
right?
Yep.
And I don't know how busy you are, Pastor Norman, and if we want to do something next week or we want to
Y'all guys tell me. Hey,
well,
y'all
I didn't know your schedule.
we are empty nesters, so
I think we can probably do something on Thursday. Our family's getting together on that Friday, so we'll probably be fine, and that'd be great. Well, I look forward to another conversation with you, young man.
okay. And I will put that on my calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Keely. So glad you guys were with us today. And thank you, Vincent and Diana. I am so glad. Linda probably's gone to work. She said that was awesome today. Thank you, Linda, in case you're still here. And so we're going to take off here. Thank you, Marie, for being here.
Thank you so much.
And I think you had some people that were here that know you, Pastor Norman.
Yes, Sister Connie was on there.
Connie, yeah. And yeah.
Our cash app has dropped off a little bit. I'm praying that the Lord will bring it back up in the giving for us and for you guys to be blessed with be able to do that to help us out.
And thank you, Vincent, for your recent contributions to us through Cash App. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyway, we'll see you guys again on. Hold it, darling.
Okay, go ahead.
He's gone already. We'll see you guys on Sunday at 10, and then Pastor Norman will be back at 11 on Sunday.
11.
By the way, how you liking doing both on online and doing your service at the same time in person?
It's still yet. I have to get used to it.
Still adjusting.
Because I get in the zone, and of course, it really don't faze me. But my thing is now, again, making a decision. Okay, guys, if y'all want to come to the church, come to the church. We can do it. But if you don't want, I could just go straight virtual. That's that. You see what I'm saying? That's the balance. Hey, I have a lot of people that's still yet deciding to do the virtual experience, and that's okay. No judgment, but to help me along and make my adjustment. Okay, y'all guys gotta let me know what you want. So.
That's right. So you guys spread the word. Those of you who know Pastor Norman, if they let him know what they want so he can make the decision and adjustment. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys on Sunday, and we love you so much. We're going to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.